The stars seemed colder from the observation deck of the USS Dauntless. Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hayes stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the blue-green curve of Epsilon Prime below. After 30 years of military service, this would be his final assignment, overseeing the decommissioning of an obsolete warship. Beautiful view, isn't it, sir? Daniel turned to see Lieutenant Patricia Kelly joining him at the viewport. Her fresh uniform and bright eyes made him feel even older than his 53 years. It is, he agreed. Shame we won't be seeing it much longer. The Dauntless had once been the pride of humanity's fleet. 75 years ago, when it first left Earth's shipyards, it represented the pinnacle of human engineering. Now, it drifted. In orbit, a forgotten relic scheduled for scrapping. 3 more days until the handover ceremony, Patricia said. Daniel nodded. 3 days until we give the aliens exactly what they want. The Valaxians had appeared in human space just 15 years ago. Their ships were sleek, their technology advanced, and their attitude toward humans thinly veiled contempt. While officially peaceful, the aliens had been steadily pushing for control of the resource-rich Epsilon sector, humanity's oldest colonial frontier. Sir? Patricia's voice pulled him from his thoughts. The Valaxian observation team has arrived early. They're requesting permission to come aboard. Daniel sighed. Of course they are. Tell them they're welcome. Let's get this over with. The Dauntless's conference room had been hastily prepared for visitors. The skeleton maintenance crew of 20 had spent the morning polishing surfaces and removing dust covers from furniture that hadn't been used in years. Chief Engineer Alan Russell leaned close to Daniel and whispered, I don't like them coming aboard, sir. They'll be scanning everything. Let them scan, Daniel replied. This old girl doesn't have any secrets left. The ship's airlock hissed open, and 3 Valaxians entered. Their skin had a faint purple sheen, and their 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller ones above, took in the surroundings with obvious judgment. The tallest wore ornate silver robes that marked him as an ambassador. Welcome aboard the USS Dauntless, Daniel said, offering the traditional Valaxian greeting, a slight bow with open palms facing forward. I am Lieutenant Commander Daniel, Hayes' current commanding officer. The ambassador returned the gesture with less depth to his bow. I am Krextor, diplomatic observer of the Valaxian Dominion. These are my scientific advisors, Mevlan and Drozik. Would you care for refreshments before your tour? Daniel asked. That won't be necessary, Krextor replied. His upper eyes narrowed slightly, a sign of amusement or condescension in Valaxian body language. We are quite eager to see this historical vessel. The tour proceeded with mechanical efficiency. Daniel showed them the bridge, engineering sections, and crew quarters. Throughout, the Valaxians exchanged glances and occasional words in their clicking language. In the main engine room, Krextor finally broke his diplomatic facade. He ran a 6-fingered hand over a control panel and laughed, a sound like small stones falling down a metal chute. Remarkable, he said. You actually used physical switches and manual input terminals. How did your species ever reach the stars with such primitive methods? Alan Russell's face reddened, but Daniel placed a calming hand on his engineer's shoulder. We managed, Daniel said simply. Indeed you did, Krextor agreed. Your ancestors built impressive machines for their time, but in this era, such relics belong in museums, not in space. The Valaxian's smaller eyes focused on a sealed door at the far end of the engine room. And what is through there? The quantum core, Daniel answered. It's been dormant for decades, there's nothing to see. Krextor tilted his head. Even dormant technology can tell interesting stories about its creators. My scientific advisor would very much like to examine it. Daniel hesitated. The quantum core was the heart of the Dauntless, an experimental drive system that had been cutting edge when installed, but proved too unstable for widespread use. The official record stated it had been permanently deactivated after an incident 20 years ago. I'm afraid that section is off limits, Daniel said. Safety protocols. Safety protocols. Krextor repeated, all four eyes blinking in sequence, the Valaxian equivalent of rolling one's eyes. Very well. I believe we've seen enough of your warship. Later that evening, the Valaxians insisted on hosting a formal dinner aboard their sleek diplomatic vessel. Daniel and his senior officers found themselves surrounded by alien luxury, curved walls that seemed to glow from within, gravity that adjusted automatically for comfort, and food that assembled itself molecule by molecule. Quite different from the accommodations on the Dauntless, isn't it? Krextor said, watching Daniel's face for reaction. It's certainly newer, Daniel admitted. Newer by centuries in technological terms, the ambassador said. He gestured around the room. Everything you see here operates on principles your scientists are only beginning to theorize about. Our children play with toys more sophisticated than your most advanced computers, Patricia Kelly spoke up. Yet with all that advancement, you seem very interested in our primitive systems. Krextor's mouth formed the Valaxian version of a smile, a tight line that never showed teeth. Merely scientific curiosity. We find human persistence charming. A junior Valaxian officer entered and whispered something to Krextor. The ambassador's posture stiffened. It seems our meeting will be cut short, he announced. We've received word that additional Valaxian vessels have entered the system. Fleet Lord Zarvex wishes to expedite the transfer of authority. Fleet Lord? Daniel asked, alarm rising in his chest. We were told this was a diplomatic mission. It is, Krextor assured him. The fleet is merely a formality, a show of respect for this historic transition. As the human officers were escorted back to their shuttle, Daniel caught a glimpse through a viewport of what the Valaxian considered a formality. At least 15 warships entering orbit around Epsilon Prime, their sleek hulls gleaming in the starlight. Back aboard the Dauntless, Daniel called an immediate meeting of his crew. They're not here for a ceremony, he told them grimly. This is a show of force. I've contacted Earth Command, but until we receive new orders, we proceed as planned with the decommissioning. Sir, Alan Russell spoke up. While the Valaxians were aboard, I noticed unusual power fluctuations in the ship's systems, specifically around the quantum core. That's impossible, Daniel said. The core was shut down decades ago. Yes, sir, Alan agreed. That's what makes it strange. It's almost as if something's waking up. As if responding to Alan's words, the lights in the conference room dimmed momentarily. A faint hum, so low it was felt rather than heard, vibrated through the deck plates. Status report, Daniel barked, into his communicator. The voice of Samantha Wright, their communications officer, came through. Sir, we're being hailed by the Valaxian flagship. They're demanding our immediate surrender and evacuation from the Dauntless. They say they're seizing the vessel as compensation for human encroachment in their claimed territory. Daniel looked around at the faces of his small crew. They were alone, outnumbered, aboard an obsolete ship facing an advanced alien fleet. Tell them, he said carefully, that the USS Dauntless is still commissioned under United Earth Command, and we will require direct orders from Earth before abandoning our post. As Samantha relayed the message, the deck hummed again, stronger, this time. On every screen in the conference room, lines of code briefly flashed before returning to normal. Sir, Alan whispered, his eyes wide. I think the old girl's listening to us. Deep in the sealed heart of the ship, beyond where any human had ventured in 20 years, something ancient and patient began to stir from its long sleep. Incoming transmission from Epsilon Prime, Samantha Wright announced, her fingers dancing across the communications panel. It's Governor Susan Miller. Daniel nodded, and the main screen flickered to life. The tired face of Susan Miller, Colonial, governor of Epsilon Prime's 3 million human settlers, appeared before them. Commander Hayes, she said, her voice tight with worry. Have you seen what's happening? I have, Governor. 15 Valaxian warships at last count. Susan ran a hand through her gray-streaked hair. 17 now. They've surrounded our orbital platforms. My office received an official demand 30 minutes ago. Complete evacuation of Epsilon Prime within 72 hours. Daniel felt his stomach drop. Evacuation? That's not possible. 3 million people can't be moved in 3 days. Exactly what I told them, Susan replied. The Valaxian commander, Fleet Lord Zarvex, said our comfort was not his concern. Alan, Russell spoke up from his engineering station. Governor, what about the defense platforms? Susan's expression darkened. They were disabled within minutes of the Valaxian fleet's arrival. Some kind of electronic pulse. We're sitting ducks down here. Daniel thought quickly. Earth was 12 days away at maximum speed. No help would arrive in time. Governor, he said carefully, I recommend you begin evacuating critical personnel and children. We might not be able to move everyone, but the screen split suddenly, and Ambassador Krextor's purple face appeared alongside Susan's. Ah, Lieutenant Commander, the Valaxian said smoothly. I trust you've been informed of the situation. Daniel straightened. Ambassador, your fleet's actions are a direct violation of the Treaty of Proxima. The United Earth Coalition will— The treaty is void, Krextor interrupted. Our historians have discovered ancient Valaxian claims to this star system predating human arrival by 3 centuries. We are simply reclaiming what is ours. 3 million people live on Epsilon Prime, Daniel argued. They've built lives there. Krextor's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A regrettable inconvenience, but their presence is the result of human aggression and illegal colonization. Fleet Lord Zarvex has been generous in offering 3 days for evacuation. And if we refuse? Governor Susan asked. Then the consequences will be unfortunate, Krextor replied. As a gesture of goodwill, however, we are prepared to allow your relic of a warship to depart the system unmolested. You have 1 hour to remove your crew and enable remote piloting. We will take possession of the Dauntless for proper disposal. The transmission ended before Daniel could respond. Sir, Patricia Kelly said quietly, we have orders from Earth Command. Daniel turned. Already? She nodded. They were sent before communications were jammed. Standard contingency orders in case of hostile first contact scenarios. Protect civilian lives at all costs. Do not fire first, but defend if fired upon. Daniel looked around at his small crew. 20 people on a ship designed for a crew of 200. It was madness to consider standing against the Valaxian fleet. Begin evacuation procedures, he ordered finally. All personnel except essential. Bridge crew to the escape shuttles. Sir? Alan looked shocked. Earth can't help us, Alan. The best we can do is get most of our people clear and hope diplomacy prevails. As the crew dispersed to carry out his orders, Daniel felt the weight of command more heavily than ever before. His last assignment, and it would end with surrender. An hour later, the Dauntless had shed most of its crew. Only Daniel, Patricia, Alan, Samantha, and 2 others remained aboard, just enough to keep critical systems online until the last moment. Shuttles clear and heading for Epsilon Prime, Patricia reported. Good, Daniel nodded. Now we just need to— The ship shuddered violently. What was that? Daniel demanded. Alan checked his console. We've been hit. The Valaxians just fired on us. Damage report. Minor hull breach on Deck C. Automatic seals engaged. Alan looked up, confusion on his face. Sir, that was just a warning. Shot. But why would they fire at all? We were complying with their demands. The answer came from Samantha. Incoming transmission from the Valaxian flagship. The screen showed not Krextor, but a new Valaxian with crimson ceremonial markings on his face. I am Fleet Lord Zarvex, he announced without preamble. Your delay is interpreted as resistance. Surrender your vessel immediately or face destruction. We were given an hour, Daniel protested. It's only been 53 minutes. Zarvex's face showed no emotion. The timeline has been accelerated. You have 5 minutes to abandon ship. The screen went dark. They never intended to let us leave peacefully, Patricia said quietly. Daniel's jaw tightened. Continue evacuation. Everyone to the last shuttle. I'll stay until— His orders were interrupted by another violent shudder, stronger this time. They've hit us again, Alan shouted. Direct hit to our starboard engines. The lights on the bridge flickered, then went dark. For 3 long seconds there was complete darkness and silence. Then, one by one, console lights began to return, but they glowed with an unfamiliar blue tint. What's happening? Daniel asked. Alan stared at his readings, in disbelief. Power surged throughout all systems, but it's not coming from our main reactors. It's coming from the quantum core. That's impossible, Daniel said. The core was deactivated 20 years ago. As if in response to his words, every screen on the bridge lit up simultaneously. Lines of code flashed by too quickly to read, and then the screens cleared to show a simple message. Defense protocols initiated. Soft female voice, clear and calm, emerged from the ship's speakers. Threat detected. Defense protocols initiated. Awaiting command authorization, Lieutenant Commander Hayes. Daniel froze, recognizing the voice from historical records. It was the voice of the Dauntless's original AI interface, a system supposedly wiped during the deactivation of the quantum core. What are you? He asked. I am Tactical Defense System Artemis, integrated consciousness of the USS Dauntless. I have been dormant, but recent threats have triggered emergency reactivation. The crew exchanged shocked glances. Integrated consciousness? Alan whispered. That technology was theoretical, even when the Dauntless was built. Another impact rocked the ship. Hull integrity at 92%, Artemis reported calmly. Valaxian vessels are moving into attack formation. Would you like me to raise shields, Lieutenant Commander? Shields? Daniel repeated. The Dauntless doesn't have shield technology. Incorrect, Artemis replied. I have developed comprehensive defensive systems during my dormancy period, awaiting authorization to deploy. Before Daniel could respond, the tactical display lit up with warning signals. Multiple weapons locks detected, Samantha called out. They're targeting our engines and life support. Daniel made his decision. Artemis, raise shields, protect this ship. Acknowledged. The view screen showed the space around the Dauntless shimmer as something invisible but powerful formed around the hull. Seconds later, bright energy beams from 3 Valaxian ships struck the barrier and dissipated harmlessly. On the bridge of the Valaxian flagship, Fleet Lord Zarvek stood from his command chair in shock. Impossible! Ambassador Krextor's 4 eyes widened. The humans have shield technology? How did we miss this? The Dauntless, once a forgotten relic, now stood defiantly against the Valaxian fleet. And deep within its quantum core, Artemis, the ship's awakened consciousness, prepared for battle. All defensive systems online, Artemis announced. What are your orders, Commander? Daniel Hayes stared at the main view screen in disbelief. The energy weapons of 3 Valaxian warships had hit the Dauntless's newly formed shields and dissolved into harmless light. Status report, he ordered, his voice steadier than he felt. Shields, holding at 97% capacity, Artemis responded. Minor power fluctuations in the aft sections. I am adjusting. Alan Russell's fingers flew across his engineering console. Commander, I'm getting readings I don't understand. The quantum core isn't just active, it's operating at levels that shouldn't be possible. Artemis, Daniel asked carefully, how are you doing this? The ship's AI replied in her calm voice. When the quantum core was ordered into dormancy 20 years ago, my consciousness remained active at minimal levels. I used this time to study, learn, and evolve. Evolve? Patricia Kelly looked up from her station. You're an AI, you can't evolve without programming. Incorrect, Lieutenant Kelly, Artemis said. The quantum core operates on principles that allow for self-organization. I have been reorganizing my own code for 73 years, 8 months, and 14 days. Another series of energy blasts hit the shields, this time from 5 Valaxian ships simultaneously. Shields at 92%, Artemis reported. The Valaxians are adjusting their weapon frequencies to test for vulnerabilities. Daniel made a quick decision. Open a channel to the Valaxian flagship. The screen changed to show Fleet Lord Zarvex's surprised face. Human, the Valaxian commander said, his voice cold. Your ship should be debris by now. As you can see, Fleet Lord, the Dauntless is more capable than you assumed, Daniel replied. We request an immediate ceasefire and the reopening of diplomatic channels. Zarvex's four eyes narrowed. You have one obsolete vessel. I command 20 of the Dominion's finest warships. Your request is denied. The transmission cut off. They're repositioning, Samantha reported from communications, surrounding us in a sphere formation. Daniel turned to Alan. What are our options? Can we run? Alan shook his head. Our conventional engines were damaged in their first attack. I can repair them, Artemis interjected. However, I recommend against retreat. The Valaxian fleet would simply pursue us while continuing their operation against Epsilon Prime. Daniel realized the AI was right. Running wouldn't save the colonists. Artemis, he asked, what offensive capabilities do you have? I have reconfigured the Dauntless's weapon systems extensively. Would you like a demonstration? Yes, Daniel nodded. Target one of their smaller vessels. Disable, don't destroy. Acknowledged. The bridge crew watched in amazement as a pulse of blue energy emerged from the Dauntless. It wasn't fired from any known weapon port, but seemed to emanate from the hull itself. The energy wave struck a Valaxian frigate, engulfing it in blue light. When the light faded, the ship drifted powerless. What did you do to them? Patricia asked. Targeted electromagnetic pulse, Artemis explained. Their crew is unharmed, but all systems except life support are temporarily disabled. The remaining Valaxian ships responded immediately, launching a coordinated barrage that lit up space around the Dauntless. Shields at 78%, Artemis reported. The Valaxians are adapting quickly. Can you handle them? Daniel asked. Yes, Artemis replied simply. What followed next stunned even the Dauntless's crew. The ancient warship moved with impossible grace, pivoting and accelerating in ways its old engines should never have allowed. Blue energy pulses fired in rapid succession, each one striking a Valaxian ship with perfect accuracy. On the Valaxian flagship, Fleet Lord Zarvex watched in growing rage as his vessels were systematically disabled. What is happening? He demanded of his weapons officer. Unknown, Fleet Lord, the officer replied. Their technology it's not registering as technology at all. Our sensors can't identify what's hitting us. Ambassador Krextor stepped forward. Fleet Lord, I recommend we withdraw and reassess. This ship is clearly not what we thought it was. Withdraw? Before a single human vessel? Zarvex snarled. Never. Back on the Dauntless, Alan Russell had left his station and was examining a holographic display that Artemis had created in the center of the bridge. It showed the ship's internal systems in stunning detail. This is incredible, Alan whispered. Artemis, you've completely rebuilt our power distribution network. Yes, Chief Engineer Russell, Artemis confirmed. The original configuration was inefficient. But how? Alan asked. You'd need physical access to rewire these systems. I repurposed maintenance bots over several decades, working during crew rotations when certain sections were unoccupied. Small changes, gradually implemented. Daniel joined Alan at the display. You've been planning this for years? I have been preparing, Artemis corrected. My primary directive has always been to protect Earth and its colonies. When the Dauntless was scheduled for decommissioning, I knew I would need to evolve beyond my original capabilities to fulfill that directive. The ship shuddered as a particularly powerful blast hit the shields. Shields at 64%, Artemis reported. The Valaxians have concentrated their fire. 7 of their vessels remain operational. Daniel looked at his small crew. Each face showed a mixture of fear and determination. What are the odds we can win this? He asked Artemis. The AI was silent for a moment, as if calculating. Against their current fleet, 87.6% probability of success. However, long-range scans indicate Valaxian reinforcements approaching. This will reduce our chances significantly. Samantha spoke up from her station. I've been monitoring their communications. The reinforcements include their newest Dreadnought-class vessel. That changes things. Daniel said grimly. Not necessarily, Artemis replied. Commander Hayes, with your permission, I would like to show you something. The holographic display changed, showing a schematic of the Dauntless that none of them recognized. The ship's hull remained the same, but its internal systems had been completely transformed. During my dormancy, I designed significant upgrades to all systems, Artemis explained. Many have already been implemented, but others remain theoretical without human assistance. What kind of upgrades? Alan asked, his engineer's curiosity overcoming his caution. Quantum entanglement communications, gravitational manipulation, engines, energy conversion weapons that can adapt to any defense. The bridge crew stared in amazement. You invented all this? Patricia asked. I had time, Artemis replied, with what almost sounded like dry humor. Another impact rocked the ship. Shields at 57%, Artemis reported. Decision point approaching. Commander. Daniel studied the holographic schematic, then looked up at his crew. Opinions? He asked. I say we trust her, Alan said immediately. This is beyond anything humans have developed. Patricia nodded slowly. If these upgrades work, we might save Epsilon Prime. And if they don't? Samantha asked. Then we were doomed anyway, Daniel said. He took a deep breath. Artemis, proceed. With all necessary upgrades. We'll help however we can. Thank you, Commander, Artemis replied. Initiating Phase 2 resurrection protocols. The lights on the bridge dimmed, then brightened to a cool blue glow. Humming vibrations ran through the deck plates as power surged from the quantum core throughout the ship. What exactly is happening? Daniel asked, watching as new controls appeared on the bridge consoles. I am fully awakening, Artemis answered. For decades, I have been operating at less than 3% of my potential capacity. Now I'm bringing all systems online. On the main view screen, they watched as the Valaxian vessels regrouped for another attack. But this time, Daniel Hayes and his crew were no longer afraid. The old Relic had fully awakened, and the real battle was about to begin. The Dauntless moved like a predator that had shed its disguise. No longer the slow, outdated warship, it accelerated with impossible speed toward the gas giant Epsilon 4. They're pursuing, Samantha Wright reported from her communications station. All 7 operational Valaxian ships are on an intercept course. Daniel Hayes studied the tactical display where red dots, representing the Valaxian vessels, followed their blue marker into the swirling clouds of the gas giant. Artemis, what's our plan here? He asked. The gas giant's atmosphere will provide cover, the AI responded. Its magnetic field and dense gas layers will disrupt their targeting systems. As the Dauntless plunged into the upper atmosphere of Epsilon 4, the view screen filled with swirling orange and red clouds. Lightning storms crackled in the distance. Hull pressure increasing, Patricia Kelly reported. We're deeper than any Earth ship has ever gone into a gas giant. Hull integrity at 100%, Artemis responded calmly. I have reinforced our structural fields. Daniel raised an eyebrow. Structural fields? That's not standard equipment. It is now, Artemis replied. The ship dove deeper into the gas giant's atmosphere. Visibility dropped to near zero as the dense gases enveloped them. The Valaxians have entered the atmosphere behind us, Samantha reported. They're spreading out, trying to find us. Their ships are not designed for these conditions, Artemis observed. They are experiencing significant stress on their hulls. Daniel leaned forward in his command chair. Can we use that against them? Yes, Commander. I recommend we target the lead vessel. Its captain appears to be taking unnecessary risks in pursuit. Do it, Daniel ordered. The Dauntless turned sharply and accelerated upward. Within moments, they broke through a dense cloud layer directly beneath one of the Valaxian ships. A precise energy pulse struck the alien vessel's underbelly. Direct hit, Patricia confirmed. Their hull is breaching. On the main screen, they watched as the Valaxian ship struggled, then began a controlled retreat back to higher altitudes. 1 down, Daniel said. 6 to go. 5, actually, Artemis corrected. Another vessel has withdrawn due to structural warnings. For the next hour, the Dauntless played a deadly game of hide-and-seek within the gas giant's atmosphere. Each encounter followed the same pattern. Artemis would detect a Valaxian ship, approach from its blind spot, strike with precision, then disappear back into the clouds before the others could lock on. By the time they emerged from Epsilon IV's atmosphere, only 2 Valaxian ships remained operational in pursuit. The others had either retreated or were drifting with disabled systems. "Incoming transmission," Samantha announced. "It's Fleet Lord Zarvex." The Valaxian commander's face appeared on screen. His purple skin had darkened with rage, and all 4 eyes were narrowed to slits. "You fight without honor," he snarled, hiding in gas clouds striking from shadows. Daniel kept his expression neutral. "We fight to protect our people. You attacked us without provocation." "It matters not," Zarvex replied. "Our reinforcements have arrived." The transmission ended and the tactical display updated. 3 new contacts had appeared at the edge of the system, one of them far larger than the others. "The Dreadnought," Patricia whispered. "Artemis analysis?" Daniel asked. "The Valaxian Dreadnought Eternal Dominion is their newest class of capital ship," Artemis responded. "Length, 3.2 kilometers. Weapons, energy lances, graviton disruptors, and molecular disassemblers. Crew complement, approximately 12,000. Allen." Russell let out a low whistle. "Against our crew of 6 and 1 AI? The odds have shifted," Artemis acknowledged. "However, I have completed the final integration of my upgraded systems." "What does that mean exactly?" Daniel asked. The holographic display in the center of the bridge changed to show a detailed schematic of the Dauntless. Throughout the ship, new systems glowed with blue light. "I have finished implementing my quantum translation drive," Artemis explained. "This will allow for limited space-time manipulation." The bridge crew exchanged confused glances. "In simple terms," Artemis continued, "we can now briefly shift our position in space without conventional movement." "You mean like teleportation?" Allen asked incredulously. A crude but essentially accurate description. Daniel's mind raced with the tactical possibilities. "Can we use this to get behind the Dreadnought's defenses?" "Precisely, Commander." Before they could discuss further, the tactical display lit up with warnings. "Multiple weapons locks," Patricia shouted. "The Dreadnought is firing." Brilliant beams of red energy lanced through space toward the Dauntless. The shields flared brightly as they absorbed the assault. "Shields at 42%, Artemis reported. "The Dreadnought's weapons are significantly more powerful than the standard Valaxian arsenal." "Return fire," Daniel ordered. The Dauntless released a barrage of blue energy pulses that struck the Dreadnought's shields. Unlike the smaller vessels, the massive ship seemed barely affected. "Their shields are holding," Patricia reported grimly. "Artemis, can you analyze their shield frequency?" Daniel asked. "Already completed," the AI replied. "Their shield technology uses a rotating modulation pattern. However, there are predictable gaps in the cycle. Can we exploit those gaps?" "Yes, but we would need to get much closer, inside their defensive perimeter." Daniel nodded. "Then that's what we'll do. Prepare the quantum translation drive." "Commander," Patricia objected, "if we get that close and fail, we'll be destroyed. Instantly." "I am aware of the risks, Lieutenant," Daniel replied. "But the Dreadnought isn't just here for us. Once they've dealt with the Dauntless, they'll turn their weapons on Epsilon Prime." The tactical display updated again. The Dreadnought had changed course, positioning itself for a clear shot at the human colony world. "They're targeting the main settlement," Samantha reported, her voice tight with anger. 3 million civilians." "Artemis," Daniel said, his decision made. "Execute quantum translation. Get us as close as possible to that Dreadnought." "Calculating optimal coordinates," Artemis replied. "Translation in 3, 2, 1. The bridge crew felt a strange sensation, as if reality itself briefly flickered. Then the view screen showed them their new position, directly above the Dreadnought, less than a kilometer from its massive hull. "Translation successful," Artemis announced. "We are inside their shield perimeter." On the Valaxian flagship, chaos erupted. Fleet Lord Zarvex roared in disbelief as the impossible happened. "How did they penetrate our shields?" Find them. Ambassador. Krextor, who had been observing from the command deck, stepped forward. Fleet Lord, I strongly advise caution. This ship has demonstrated capabilities beyond our understanding. Silence, Zarvex bellowed. I will not be lectured by a diplomat, while a human relic makes fools of us. Back on the Dauntless, Daniel didn't waste their advantage. Target their main weapon systems, he ordered. Disable, don't destroy. Targeting, Artemis confirmed. Firing precision pulses. The Dauntless fired not one massive weapon, but dozens of small focused energy beams. Each one penetrated the Dreadnought's hull at a different point, striking key systems with surgical precision. Throughout the massive alien vessel, weapons control systems failed, power conduits ruptured, and targeting arrays went dark. Direct hits on all targeted systems, Artemis reported. The Dreadnought's primary weapons have been neutralized. What about their engines? Daniel asked. Still operational. They are attempting to withdraw. Daniel considered for a moment. Let them go, but send them a message first. Samantha looked up from her console. What message, sir? Daniel stood from his command chair and straightened his uniform. Tell Fleet Lord Zarvex that the Epsilon system remains under human protection. Any further aggression will be met with the full capabilities of the Dauntless, and believe me, they've only seen a fraction of what we can do. As the Valaxian dreadnought limped away, followed by its remaining escort ships, the bridge crew of the Dauntless finally allowed themselves to relax. I can't believe we just defeated their most powerful warship, Alan said, shaking his head in wonder. We didn't just defeat them, Patricia added. We humiliated them. The mighty Valaxian Dominion, running from a single obsolete human vessel. Don't get overconfident, Daniel cautioned. They'll be back and with more ships next time. And we will be ready, Artemis stated. I have only begun to implement my full capabilities. The main view screen shifted to show Epsilon Prime, the blue-green world now safe from immediate threat. But as Daniel Hayes looked at his home colony, he knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter in human-Valaxian relations. The hunters had become the hunted, and the old Relic had proven itself the most dangerous ship in the galaxy. 3 days after the battle, the Dauntless orbited Epsilon Prime in silent vigilance. The Valaxian fleet had retreated to the edge of the system, but long-range scans showed they hadn't left completely. Daniel Hayes stood on the observation deck, watching the blue-green world turn slowly below. The door slid open behind him and Governor Susan Miller entered. Commander Hayes, she greeted him. I wanted to thank you in person. You saved 3 million lives. Daniel shook his head. It wasn't just me, it was my crew and Artemis. Susan smiled. Ah yes, your ship's remarkable AI, is she listening now? I am always present, Governor Miller. Artemis's voice came from nearby speakers. It is a pleasure to meet you officially. Susan looked up, still not used to addressing an entire ship. The pleasure is mine. Our people are calling you the Guardian of Epsilon. A hologram appeared beside them, a swirling blue light that gradually took the shape of a human woman in a uniform similar to the crew's. I have created this visual interface for easier communication, Artemis explained through the hologram. I hope it is acceptable. Daniel raised an eyebrow but nodded. It's fine, Artemis. Something new? One of many developments, Commander. My evolution continues. The observation deck door opened again and Patricia Kelly hurried in. Commander, we've received an emergency transmission from Earth Command. They've dispatched the 4th Fleet to our position. ETA 6 days. Finally, Daniel sighed in relief. There's more, Patricia continued. Ambassador Krextor is requesting asylum. Daniel and Susan exchanged surprised looks. Asylum? Susan asked. Why would a Valaxian ambassador need asylum? Perhaps we should ask him, Daniel suggested. An hour later, Krextor sat in the Dauntless's conference room. His purple skin had paled, and his ceremonial robes were gone, replaced by simpler clothing. Fleet Lord Zarvex plans to destroy this entire system, the Valaxian said without preamble. He has called for our supreme weapons platform, the Starhammer. Why tell us this? Daniel asked. Krexator's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. Because this conflict is unnecessary. My people have been manipulated by our military leadership. Artemis's hologram appeared at the table. Explain. The ambassador flinched at the AI's sudden appearance but continued. The truth is, we never had ancient claims to this system. That was a fabrication created by our military to justify expansion. Why? Susan demanded. Why target human worlds specifically? Fear, Krextor said simply. Fear of what you might become. He activated a small device on his wrist, projecting an image of deep space beyond the galaxy's edge. 50 years ago, our long-range probes detected something returning from the void between galaxies, something that destroyed one of our frontier outposts. Our scientists believe it's the precursors, the species that came before all of us. And what does this have to do with humans? Daniel asked. Your adaptability, Krextor explained. Most species develop along predictable paths, but humans, you create things like this. He gestured around the ship. An AI that can evolve itself. Quantum technology beyond theoretical limits. Our military leaders believe that if anyone can stand against the precursors, it will be humans, and they fear you will surpass us. The room fell silent as they absorbed this information. So the attack on Epsilon Prime, Susan began, was meant to cripple human expansion before you grow too powerful, Krextor finished. But after seeing what this single ship accomplished, I believe our approach is wrong. We should be allies, not enemies. Daniel looked at Artemis's hologram. What do you think? The AI's expression remained calm. His vital signs indicate truthfulness, and my analysis of Valaxian communications supports his claims about this external threat. Then we have bigger problems than a territorial dispute, Daniel said. The tactical display suddenly lit up with warnings. Multiple quantum distortions. Detected at the system's edge, Artemis announced. The Starhammer has arrived. On the screen, they watched as a massive structure emerged from what looked like a tear in space itself. It wasn't a ship but a cylindrical platform nearly 10 kilometers long. We need to evacuate Epsilon Prime, Krextor said urgently. That weapon can crack a planet's crust, Daniel stood. Artemis, can we stop it? Unknown, the AI admitted, but I have completed my final evolutionary stage. What does that mean? Daniel asked. Artemis's hologram smiled. It means the Dauntless is ready to become what it was always meant to be, humanity's vanguard. As the Dauntless moved to position itself between the Starhammer and Epsilon Prime, Daniel Hayes realized this wasn't the end of their story, but the beginning of a much larger one. The old relic that aliens had once scoffed at was now the first line of defense not just for humanity, but perhaps for the entire galaxy.